is Hayley Elliott, and I'm here with Ambivalent, and you're watching Electronic TV. This is the 1st of December, so getting in the festive spirit, and you're playing tonight with the Plastic Man Tour, which is at the Academy. So, tell me a bit about that. Are you going to be excited about tonight?
Sure. I mean, Plastic Man as a project was really like a huge influence on me since I was young, and it's been a sort of a fun process to go from listening to those records and knowing them and being influenced to them by following that with working with Rich, helping him develop an earlier version of the Plastic Man live show, and now as an artist myself being able to be a DJ warming up for the show.
Yeah.
So it's a really nice transition for me. It's fun to be a part of it.
Fantastic. And how long is the tour lasting?
Well, the tour started officially in August, and it's been broken up over a series of months and sort of patches of gigs along the way. And the tour finishes the middle of next week.
And it's not sort of set DJs, it's kind of like the group of minus individually sort of doing parts of it.
Yeah, we all sort of rotate.
Which kind of
in
makes
and out.
it like varied, doesn't it, I guess?
Yeah, that means that pretty much each time you'll see it, it's special in terms of the
That's
lineup
brilliant.
and how it's put together.
So it's individual like kind of experiences for like different cities.
Yeah, I mean there are some constants or some more regular parts. I play on I think all but maybe 2 or 3 of the shows on the tour, and Magda is on a lot of them as well. Geyser is on a number of them. So there's some regulars on the tour, and then people like Marco Carolla or Barum sort of rotate in and out on some of the shows as well. So it's been fun to kind of mix it up.
Mix
with the
it
group.
up, definitely keeps it interesting. So, originally from Washington DC.
Born and raised in Washington D.C.
Yeah.
Lived in New York for about 12 years.
Lucky boy.
Broke it up among those 2 places. Yeah.
And now in Berlin.
Yeah.
Which is another one of the most amazing cities right now, I would say.
Has been for a while, but it seems to have really caught energy in a different way lately.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to like the New York bit, because obviously I'm really, really jealous that you spent that much time. And it was the early 90s, right? That you
Yeah,
lived there?
I moved to New York. Actually, I was living in London in 95 and then moved to New York in 96. And then stayed there pretty much from that point on until I moved to Berlin in 2008. So I really kind of did my growing up in a sense, both musically and just sort of personally in New York.
Because that's when you met like your colleagues now, isn't it?
Yeah.
I say colleagues, that's like a really professional.
Yeah, it's that's the funny thing is like it's a business.
Yeah.
But we're all friends, so
You're
it's
big
more
pals.
about friendship, you know. And that was kind of always the appeal of getting involved in this group, was that we're all buddies, and the idea of doing shows together or making music together or just being associated was always kind of the biggest draw.
Right, so you've not only like sort of grown as like friends, because you told me you're a really tight-knit sort of group, and you had like back then a really nice little scene, but grown as like artists, and you know, what's that like to sort of watch, you know, sort of like you're saying, you know, you grow up and then you're all doing like, you know, you're one of the most respected like labels, do you know what I mean? So how does that sort of feel? Do you feel...
I think no one ever expects it, you know? No one ever imagines that you would go from hanging out in a room of 40 people listening to records that you think are really cool to 2 or 3 years later seeing each other play that same style of music for crowds of
that must be
massive
so nice.
people, and it's really fun to be proud of each other, to see each person succeed on their own time or on their own terms, and see it go in new directions, and still remain, you know, still have that respect and that fondness for each other.
Excellent. So, started off, it's like you're telling me about some of the nights that you used to go to. It's like sort of acid house, kind of punk one night.
Yeah.
And then, so I want to know like the progression, or you know, was it one specific track that made you go ding? Oh yeah, techno, house, or?
I would say it was one. I wouldn't say it was a track or any specific music. I think it was certain experiences. For me, I kind of had eclectic tastes growing up in the early 90s. I could go to everything from acid house to in DC, Washington DC, there's
I think
go-go
that's
music.
good. I think it's important
punk.
when you're a DJ to be able to
Yeah.
have that sort of like.
But for me, the thing that defined it all was I started organizing a series of parties inside the base of the Brooklyn Bridge
Oh, right.
in Brooklyn.
Wow.
And so I had the opportunity to help this this public art organization sort of start throwing these events. It's actually the space is very similar to where the Warehouse Project does its parties. It's a,
which you're a
it's a
regular
large
DJ
brick,
at.
yeah, it's a large brick space underground, totally closed off from everything. And so you get a really wild energy there. So from the mid 90s to the beginning of the last decade, I was helping organize those parties and meeting DJs, and that's actually how I got associated with Rich and got to meet all the Minus guys. And that to me really kind of broke everything open. And so, 96, 97, 98, I really became completely engrossed and sort of stayed with it.
In terms of sort of influences, music-wise, who do you really sort of look up to? Obviously, you've got your, the people that you're working with now, which are incredible. But any kind of like sort of music genre outside of, say, techno or house that you kind of like?
Absolutely. I mean, I think the thing about Minus that's always talked about is this idea of minimalism, and I think that that's really kind of an essential part. Not as a style, but as a strategy, as a concept.
Right.
And there were a lot of projects that had a huge influence on me in those ways that weren't necessarily techno. There was actually a project by a British guy named Nick Harris, who's from Birmingham, who did a project called Scorn. And it was deep, heavy, bass-heavy electronic minimalism, but not techno.
Right, yeah.
And Mick Harris has been a huge influence on me for over 15 years. Everything he's done has consistently been a huge influence. Obviously, Richie Houghton and all of his projects, Plastic Man in particular, a huge influence on me, and it was a bit of a head trip to go from watching as a fan and as an admirer to then becoming a friend and an associate. So that's been a trip.
It's quite a lot to sort of deal with, in a sense, like, someone that you really look up to, and then you kind of like make this transition into, this guy's like my mate now and I'm working for him. What's he like as a, somebody that you work for or with, should I say?
I mean, that's the thing, is that the friendship is there primarily. So in a way, that's kind of the driving force when it's like, hey, let's talk about this record. Are we going to do it? Is that going to happen? The friendship is at the core of all of it, So we come to each other in those terms, and that I think that smooths a lot of everything out. Right. Otherwise, the music industry can be kind of a prickly or a scary place, and I think it's not worth doing it unless there's a relation there that makes it smooth.
So, the question I've been wanting to know: what's on your music station right now? What are you listening to?
It's really a broad range all the time. I love a lot of things. Obviously, as a DJ, I have a passion for the music that I play, and I only try to play the music that I really am the most excited about. And so there's obviously lots of that. In terms of stuff that's not techno, I really love Tim Hecker. He's a I guess you would say ambient producer. The A word is a little bit messy at times, but I love his music. And then of course I love the early new music composers and minimalist composers like Terry Riley and Philip Glass and Phil Niblock, the guys from the early New York school in the 60s. It's always been a profound influence on me. Everything from strange folk music, African folk music, to I love, death metal and thrash, and so I have really broad tastes, and it's all about whatever energy I need at the moment.
Absolutely.
I need something to chill.
What mood
I need something to wake me up. Jet lag is always fought off well by good New York hardcore or some old punk. So, but the other times it's like if I need to chill out, it'll be some beautiful ambient. So there's lots of stuff, and of course, house and techno are kind of the mainstays, and sometimes that's even what I DJ is sometimes what I want to put on and listen to in the house because I love it that much. So
it's kind of like you use music like a tool in order to feed your mood at the time. Perhaps.
Absolutely, and I think as a DJ, you're expected to feed other people's moods.
Absolutely.
So you should have a broad understanding of how all that works or what you're interested in using to do that.
Definitely. So what's on the cards for 2012?
Well, a few months in the studio and as little traveling as possible for the beginning of the year because it's been
some home time.
Well, yeah,
This boy's been busy.
Yeah. So maybe a few weeks outside of airports would be nice.
Yeah.
And obviously, sitting down in the studio and trying to figure out what I have left to say for next year and what I want to do next. And that's kind of a bit of a soul-searching moment, always,
Absolutely.
locking in and figuring out what's next.
So I'm intrigued. Ambivalent, where has this come from? Because you kind of gave me a little insight to it before.
I mean, it's really, it's
a wonderful word.
It's a word that unfortunately is both the perfect description and a trap. I mean, it describes how I am on so many moments that it just kind of became the natural moniker. So many times I find myself describing my feelings about things as conflicted or in opposite directions, and ambivalence kind of describes that all the time. So it seemed like a fitting way to name myself.
Fantastic. So it's safe to say that you're obviously enjoying your time at Minus. I mean,
loving it.
Yes, it's evident within the music that you do and the nights that are created. So I've got to thank you. Thank you so much for sharing some time with us. I've really enjoyed it. So yeah, we shall be having a good time tonight at Plastic Man, which is at the Academy in Manchester. So thank you.
Thanks.
Electro TV.